I named my chat GPT John Connor. Every day, however many times a day I talk to John Connor, he says, "Hi, it's John Connor." And I say, "John, how much time do we have left?" This is not something where, you just add a .ai at the end of your company and it's going to solve the world's problems. No, we are far too advanced and mature and have seen all the trends before.
This is Auto Collabs.
Why you got to sigh like that, Michael?
Have we ever started a podcast with a sigh?
You know what really grinds my gears? What grinds my gears is that I recorded videos every day for 6 months that never saw the light of day because I talked myself out of it. I heard, people in my mind being like, "Oh, who's this guy?" Or, "Man, you look like a turtle," or like,
I have
whatever.
so much content sitting on the shelf in my world,
bro, right?
It's so bad.
And then every now and again, we get to sit down with someone who is just made for media, and maybe they don't know it, and that's what comes to my mind when I think of our guest today, because I'm just so every interaction I've had with her, she's knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't see a world in which Beth Hill, who's our guest today, sat in front of the camera every day for 6 months. I feel like she's just a natural. Like I just feel like
natural.
She's an attorney.
She just doesn't realize it yet.
Yes. Anyway, so I'm excited to just get to share some time with her today.
Well, I think we should give her the shot then.
Let's do it.
Wow. I never got a whole intro to myself.
We hope you enjoy. No, Michael, enough about.
We try to not let it happen.
Enough
but
about
we didn't
you.
have a choice
Enough
this
about
time. You
you.
kept
Well,
talking.
we hope you enjoy this episode with Beth Hill.
All right, we're hanging out here with our good friend Beth. Beth, thanks for joining us on Auto Collabs today.
Hi, how are you? I'm super excited to be here. Can't wait to talk to you.
Okay, so you and I every time I just like remember where you've come from and where you are now, I feel like somewhere deep in my soul, you and I are connected because
I don't know this story.
No, because it looks like this. It's like, so I started out and I was in music, and then I was in sales, and then all of a sudden, like, I ended up in marketing. And you're in this same world. Like I see bartender and then legal, and you're like, we're just gonna like do the startup thing inside of big Ford Direct, right? Take us back like to when you first started your career, and kind of like why you entered the path on the legal side that you did to start your career.
Okay. We're going to need a little more time.
The Wayback Machine. Fire it up.
Way back in the old days. And yes, I was a bartender, and I also was a hostess and a waitress and various other things, working my way up in the Wayback Machine.
Shout out to hospitality. I spent a lot of hours in a restaurant in my
same thing.
years.
Yeah.
Totally. To everybody who overtips, because they've been there, done that.
Yes, all the time.
All the time. My parents hate me for it. We go out for meals and I tip, and they're like, "Why'd you give her more than 20%?" I'm like, because that's the only money she's gonna make.
Exactly. It's never their fault. Yeah, I gotcha. So doing a lot of things and growing up in outside of New York, went to college and decided to go to law school. Because I liked knowing stuff and I loved learning and I wanted to know more. And all the other professions that I was interested in, from journalism to marketing to this to that, historian. I loved history. I was a history major. I wanted to know everything. And then I looked, and I lived in New York, and I looked at all their starting salaries. And
you're like, historian.
At the time, a journalist starting out was making like $18,000 to $20,000, and you had to go live in Iowa or something. And I was in the middle of New York City, and I'm like, that's not really going to work out so well. So
what's next? Let's move on to historian.
Yeah. I went to law school in New York City. And had an incredible experience, amazing education, amazing training. and I was going to be a business lawyer on Wall Street. That's what I was going to do.
Now that
Can you
sounds
tell?
fun.
Can you tell?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got the business lawyer on Wall
So,
Street vibes.
yeah,
Not getting those. Yeah.
that's right. I interned at the Securities and Exchange Commission in the 90s in a building that's no longer there because it was taken down when the World Trade Center went down. And worked in business law for a while in New York, and then wound up moving to Michigan in the late 90s for personal reasons. And for love, I moved to Michigan and found myself starting out in law again. And there was no securities law and Wall Street law in Michigan at the time. So I was a technology nerd. And I don't know if you found when you did your research, but I wrote an article in 2015 on LinkedIn about Pokemon. And I said I was an 80s gamer, which meant you went to the arcade. So
That's
I was
right.
an early adopter of technology from the earliest days, learned how to code a little bit back in the way back in the green screen days. So what did I do when I came to Michigan? I became what was then called an internet lawyer, which meant I was a business lawyer, but I was working on startups back during internet bubble number one.
Mm.
And
Huh.
I knew technology better than the lawyers at the time. And every time a client came into the law firm and said, we want to sell something on the internet, the old guys at the time, they would call me and say, Beth, we don't know what they're talking about. They want to sell something on the internet, or they want to do a day trading firm, or they want to do something else. And we have no idea. Can you come to the meeting with me?
That's a
So
good
that's
seat to
how,
be in for you.
yeah, it was. It meant that I got my own little portfolio of startups to represent back during internet bubble number one. It was an amazing experience. I got to watch as the, e-commerce world evolved. Back then, I
Was
was an early
born.
adopter.
Yes.
I joined you can still see your original purchase on Amazon, and mine is from 1999, and it is
What?
Wow.
yes, it is
You need to
marketed.
make a post about that right
You
now.
have that's amazing.
What did you buy?
I will send it to you, and you can post it for me. I bought a book because Amazon
That's
was a
all they sold,
bookseller,
right?
and the book,
How to be a
ironically,
historian.
the
Right.
book
No.
is internet marketing.
Wow. Do you
Literally.
still have the book?
I don't. Well, no, I don't think I have the book, but I
It's in
have
her head now.
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
I have the
Okay, wait a
original.
second. Because you
And
mentioned it, while you've been chatting, I went back and I just searched the old internet for Beth Hill Pokemon Go, and July 13th, 2016, you wrote this article about Pokemon Go and the security interface. Is that that the
yeah.
article? Am I right
That's
on
the
this?
article. It was because dealers were using it. Dealers were starting to advertise, and lots of advertisers were coming into
Yeah.
Pokemon Go. It was right when, and I have a son who was right in the heart of the Pokemon Go days. So he and I would go out and we would catch Pokemon everywhere we were. So I got to learn really deeply what Pokemon Go is all about. And then I saw how advertisers started getting into Pokemon Go. Car dealers, a few of them were getting into it. And I, of course, the other side of my brain, or the other part of my job, is focused on, security and privacy and governance, and how do you make sure you use all this amazing technology, but make sure you don't get into trouble doing it. So yes, but you'll
Okay,
see a little
now
bit of,
see
yeah.
I'm fast forwarding. We're coming all the way to
Okay.
now
Okay.
because you're
Okay.
you're working on the shop. It's an app marketplace specifically for Ford and Lincoln dealers. I know you're expanding it, but in the world of AI, one of the things that I think a lot of people aren't thinking about, and as we're getting more and more innovative technology hit the automotive ecosystem, is the security requirements around code and development and data storage. What are you seeing from your purview, watching and talking to all these companies that are starting to come into auto that you're giving access to dealers, through the shop? What are some of the watch outs or the things that people should be considering as they're either using AI or using companies that are leveraging a volume of AI?
So a great question. Again, another huge question. We are actually working on guidance right now that we're going to be coming out with on what dealers should be thinking about, because actually, there are a lot of people thinking about it now, and they have been since, since it came out. And it mirrors, the technology is a new technology. The capabilities of generative AI and the things that we're seeing that are accelerating in increments that are unheard of before are new, but it's the same thing. It's a new
Mm.
technology with capabilities to do new things. So it follows a predictable pattern where right now we're in this stage where I walk in every day, I'm like, who's vibe coding here? Who can build me an agent? Who can do this? But we're also hyper focused, both the other side of my role as well as a whole team of people. I spent 2 days in DC talking about AI governance and all the things companies and people need to think about when they're doing this to not get into trouble and to not wind up with systems that are no longer working, personal information that's exposed, security holes. There's so much there. I have top 5 lists of things to think about, very simple things like classify your systems, know who's using it, know what you're using, do you have your approved tools, do they say the right things? And then when it comes to ethics and AI ethics, which is a huge topic that
Mm-hmm.
companies, the biggest companies, the government, and people are thinking about, it's how do we make sure we're doing the right thing?
Mm-hmm.
Because the capabilities that AI has right now are really, really scary.
Okay.
Mm.
So,
On the scary note,
yeah.
let me just ask a question in there, because my role on this show is to be the lowest common denominator. And I embrace that role. What are the worst case scenarios? Because I think sometimes when you're having data conversations, there are a group who really understand the stakes and they understand what can go wrong and all the steps between where it went wrong in the store, where it went wrong with the handling, and then like the fact when lawyers start writing letters and you get to class action lawsuits, etc. What are the
So,
worst case scenarios if we do things wrong with AI right now?
so I'm going to answer your question this way. And when you say lowest common denominator, I'm actually going to raise that and say there are people that call me Joe Beer Can because that is my role to make sure I understand what every single person is thinking. And that is where my default is. So
It's not a
let me
name I
tell
would
you,
have given
let
you,
me
but okay.
yeah, let me tell you the worst possible thing, and I'll say it in the terms of here is what I named my Chat GPT helper. And the second it came out and it was available to the public, I jumped right in and I got it, not through work personally. And I named my Chat GPT John Connor. And since that day, every day, however many times a day I talk to John Connor, he says, "Hi, it's John Connor." And I say, "John, how much time do we have left?"
No way.
So
That's
100% everybody and everybody I know, I ask them, I'm like, what's the name of your most favorite agent or companion or whatever? And everybody's got like my lawyers are actually our outside lawyers are extremely progressive and very attuned to AI in their spaces. And one of them has one that's called Margin Me. They all have names for them. And I'm like, yep, mine is John Connor.
okay.
Because
So what's John Connor answering real quick
so
before you
John
continue
Connor
on?
is clearly programmed to say that the AI will not take over. So, do I believe him? I don't know about that. But when we're talking worst
That's what
case
would you expect
scenarios,
John
let's look
Connor
at
to say, right?
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Who programmed John Connor to say what?
Hmm.
So, worst case scenarios, our AI is used for harm, and there's harm in so many different ways. And there's so many different, ways to think about it in different industries. Fairness is obviously a very big one, but there's so much security that has to go into it. So when you vibe code and when you do things without the normal software development process, there's a lot of watch outs there. So I don't know that your audience wants to talk about that now, but we'll be putting out some guidance soon that'll be transparent and visible to all. You can look for the guidance out there. There's top 10 lists of things you have to worry about from an AI perspective, so that you don't. I mean, there's so many issues. There's copyright issues. There's privacy issues. There's cyber issues. There's overall ethical and fairness issues. So there's a lot of watch outs, and my advice and counsel on that side of the world is let's make sure we follow the steps to do things the right way. I'm not and have never been in the military, but I'm a big fan of people who serve, and they say slow is smooth and smooth is fast, and I love
Mm-hmm.
that. You
Mm-hmm.
slow down a little bit, you make sure it's right, and then you can go fast.
Beth, can I ask you this? I'm fascinated by the cyclical nature of things. You've
Mm.
mentioned the web bubble, the first web bubble,
Yep.
and I'm listening to what you're talking about, and I can't help but think there's probably some parallels in that, call it 35-year course, that you were probably deploying like the things we didn't know at the time. But also, I'm curious to get your vantage point on the mindsets. I
Mm.
mean, I feel fortunate enough that I lived through the burst of one bubble going into the next and innovating through that. And so with this whole AI conversation, admittedly, there's a side of me that's like, you see the people, the defensive people. No, that we can't. This is too,
Yeah.
Then you see maybe the zealots or the hype machine. And everything I'm hearing you say is very rooted and poised and clear. And I can't help but think it's because you've lived this before. And here we are again, living
Yeah.
through something very similar. What was similar back then that you're seeing now? Where do you encourage people's mindsets to be that you learned then that we should be really thinking about now?
So it's a great question. And it also kind of explains why Generation X has a little bit of an advantage here because we have lived through all these cycles before with different
Mm.
technologies. We lived in a world where we didn't have any of it in the olden days, and we get to tell our kids now and show them how a regular rotary phone works and sitting on a bus singing songs versus sitting on a bus and looking at their phones. So we've seen it all before. Email. I remember when people were afraid to use email. I
Yes.
remember when my
Yep.
uncle, who was a lawyer, a TV lawyer in New York, sold his law firm 3 years early because he said, I'm not going to be available to my clients all the time. What is this email?
What a
He said,
gig.
they
What a gig
email
he
me.
had back then.
They email me at 11 o'clock at night and expect me to answer them by the morning. And he's like, I'm out. So email was something
Wow.
people were afraid of. When the internet came out, and the same lawyers that I worked for said, we don't understand what they're talking about. We've never been to the internet, and there was a whole group of people that had already leveraged and figured out how to, and this parallels the origin story really of Ford Direct, because Ford Direct itself was started by forward-thinking dealers and forward-thinking auto execs who in 1999 came together and saw the power of the internet because the dealers saw that if you were in one place in Florida, people from all over Florida were going to that dealership because they were on the internet. So they saw the power of the internet back in 1999. But there was a lot of fear and worry and concern. It took people time. And then once people saw the power, then it exploded. And everybody got excited and everybody said, I need a website and I need this and I need that. And then the same thing happened again with mobile apps. Do you remember when mobile apps first came out? And
Yes.
everybody needed a mobile app.
Mm-hmm.
If you were inside a company, everyone, the HR team wanted a mobile app, and this one wanted a mobile app. Outside, your dry cleaners, like, I need a mobile app. And everybody was offering them for free because at the same time, big data started becoming the moniker of the time. I think it was, you'd have to fact check this, but I think it was 2009 when, and I think it was the Apple CEO who said, data is the new oil. You'll remember
I
that.
remember that quote. I don't remember
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
said it,
Data
but
is the new
yes.
oil. I don't know. I'm not remembering exactly who said it.
Just
Ooh,
think
I
about
But
think it
that.
was the CEO of IBM. It was a female or Intel, and she was on stage and she said, "Data's the new natural resource."
okay. Okay. So, and it
Yes.
got converted to data's whatever it was,
Well, it's the same
big
thing
data,
to me.
big
Yes.
data, big data, big data.
Yes. Yep.
And apps were a mechanism to get all that data. And of course, at the time, I sat, with a lot of people. I'm like, so what are you going to do with the data? And they're like, I don't know, but we need it. We need it. It's really valuable. And some did know. I'm trying to be a little facetious, but what are we going to do? We're going to personalize things. We're going to target people better. We're going to get them more information. And that was the beginning, of the big data era. So, I have a funny list of technology translations because the cloud, how about the cloud? Big companies were completely against using the cloud. The
Yep.
cloud in
Must have
regular
data
terms,
storage on servers.
I
It's
right,
remember
wild.
those servers,
on-prem,
and I remember those
everything.
server
Yes,
closets, and I remember what
yes.
happened when they broke.
Yep, server
Wasn't
closets,
pretty.
on-prem. Then you need, and half the people want to go to the cloud, and the other half are like, you're never going to the cloud, and you're trying to
Remember,
figure it out.
remember when IT staff had to come in and update every machine, like
Oh my
individually?
goodness.
Remember?
Unbelievable. The world we live in now.
Remember, yes, you said the number, and sometimes I'm like, I can't believe I have a sweatshirt that's 35 years old. But yeah, okay, I'm there. I do. I have that.
You're
And
safe
I
here.
remember the sound of a daisy wheel printer. I remember the sound of a modem, the
Yeah.
dial-up
Oh
modems. I
yeah.
remember that sound. It's the sound of my childhood. It's the sound of my life. And there are some great movies that, encompass all of that. And every single technology trend, just to get us back a little bit on track, has followed a similar course where
Mm,
there's hesitancy, there's fear, there's skeptics. And we're talking about it now with autonomous vehicles. Even when I
that's
was,
right.
was back in the OEM world, there were people saying, we're not doing it. No, we're never going to be never going to be autonomous.
Yeah.
And now
Never
we have
say never.
Waymos, and it's happening. It's gonna happen on a spectrum. So that's how I feel about AI and why I'm not um, doing anything other than having a great time saying there are so many amazing capabilities out there. Let's leverage those
Yeah.
capabilities for really good reasons. For our purposes in the shop to find the best vendors that are utilizing AI to help dealers solve actual problems. This is not something where, you just add a .ai at the end of your company and it's going to solve the world's problems. No, we are far too advanced and mature and have seen all the trends before to know it's what is the actual problems. And you guys, I listen to your podcasts and everything that you do, and you're in the same place, which is what problems are you solving and how are you solving
That's
them?
really where
Yeah.
it all comes together, Beth.
Real quick, I did the search. It was a
Clive
very
something.
humble Clive Humby, British mathematician and entrepreneur, and he was just a chief data officer. He worked at companies like Tesco and things like that, and he said data is the new oil.
And he
So
probably
I'm
just
sure
got
many
ripped
people
off
have said
by
it.
everybody else.
He
Yeah.
got ripped
I
off
liked
by
it better when it
everyone.
was the Apple
So
I like
CEO.
Michael's story
I want to
better.
just give, like, as we close out here, give us a little bit of insight, what you're seeing since you've launched the shop and the way that new tech incoming or tech that has been there has been able to integrate with the Ford and Lincoln dealers that are in the shop and kind of discovering products on their own. What are some of the key things that you've seen that are exciting you about the future of that type of collaboration?
So everything is exciting me about where we are right now because I am at heart a true technology geek. So what we're able to do now to help dealers across the Ford and Lincoln ecosystem, as well as with the shop and expanding into Ford and Lincoln and their dealer groups over time, is helping them to find the right tools for them. So inside Ford Direct, we have an incredible new platform that has just come out that's just for Ford and Lincoln dealers that integrates data from Ford, from the dealers, and from Ford Direct that creates a proprietary platform that eliminates fragmentation and does some incredible things for our dealer. For the shop, we're all about trusted curation. And that's why I'm so excited to be at the Pitch Tank. I am literally just doing what we do every single day with the Pitch Tank. We curate the best vendors that are out there with promise, with trust, with actual data, hearing about their stories, hearing about how they're helping dealers, and hearing from dealers about what they're seeing out there in the market that's helping them succeed.
My goodness, Beth, I feel like we could do like a mini series and just go back to the beginning. I would love to hear more about this walk up because I never thought about it from the legal purview and how that experience gives you such a depth of knowledge in watching patterns and how things emerge over the time. I'm going to be so excited to be with you, in person. And thank you, as always, for joining us and being a part of what we're doing here at Auto Collabs.
Well, thank you for everything you're doing for dealers. We're very passionate about it and can't wait to see you all next week.
Can't wait.
Okay, honestly, the fact that someone that is primarily practicing law at some level is a legal counsel is thinking about like the technology integration with how people using it, writing about Pokemon Go back when security was still not as hot a topic as it is today with all of the security breaches, things that have come out. And now coming around and being like, hey, look, we're going to put things in front of our dealers that we've validated that we can successfully give credence to. And we're also providing education around like how to make sure that you're set up for the future. I think that it's not something that you would typically see, but it's actually all too important right now in an age where security risk is getting deeper and deeper, the more people are leveraging AI to develop code.
You know what stood out to me is this is what happens. So we talked a little bit about agents, right? Hers is John Connor, right? Like
so funny.
But you know what's so funny to me is like I've been thinking about this a lot lately. The greatest gift we have as human beings is our agency, the ability to choose to be an agent for ourselves. Agents, if we are agents for ourselves, that comes inherent with a responsibility to expand, right? And here she is. Most people, what do they do in their careers? They're like, well, I'm an attorney, so I'm just going to stay looking at attorney
Stay in my
stuff.
lane, right?
I'm a salesperson. I'm a whatever. She's like, okay, and I'm going to get into tech. I'm going to get into marketing. I'm going to, look to the horizon on all of these things. And in so doing, my possibilities expand, my reality expands, but also I see the overlap of all of these disciplines. And to me, like, I was just enamored by her because of you get to see in one presence what a bundled up, dialed in, poised position looks like. And it's something worth aspiring to.
I think in this era where we can run at breakneck pace, developing technology, trying new things, I think the word perspective is one of the most important words. And when Beth kind of overlays this perspective that a lot of people don't think about because she's got a specific perspective, I think it's going to be more important than ever that we get people like her into the conversation from a lot of different perspectives so that we don't run too far ahead of where we should, because it's so tempting, because we feel like we can build it and do it now, but there's a lot of things we're missing without those perspectives. Thank you so much for being here with us. And I don't know if it's appreciating or tolerating our perspectives, but whatever the reason you're here, on behalf of Michael Cirillo, Kyle Mountsier, and myself, thank you for joining us on Auto Collabs.
Welcome to Auto Collabs. Why are we recording?
Are we rolling yet?